again for taking the time and working with and through the application, doing different activities since we were last together, which we'll talk about. Question that sits with me generally is, okay, if you get to that 6 again, why should the governor this time make the best decision and cause you to be the person?
Well, because I think that I have the same judicial philosophy as the governor. I think you may recall that my family is from Jordan, and they're run by a king. In this country, we're ruled by, we're a nation of laws and not of men, not of kings. And because of that, we have this wonderful balance, checks and balances through the 3 systems of government. And the judiciary has a very specific role, a very narrow role. They have guardrails, and that's just interpreting and applying the law as it's written. And I think we've all seen that sometimes judges go ahead and interpret the law as they would want it to be interpreted, or inject their own opinion, or think that they could rewrite a statute a little better, or interpret it a little better than the legislators. And when they do that, they actually take away the power of the legislator, and there's no real accountability because the people vote in the legislators. And when a judge goes off, basically rogue, and interprets statutes the way that they would like it to be seen, or they think that it could be done better, it actually would be a better thing for the person just to step down and run for the legislature. Because when you blur the lines of the 3 branches of government, then the whole idea of a constitutional form of government really loses its strength. So my view is that I have a very narrow role, and I believe the governor is on the same page.
Running the business of a law firm, how do you think that will impact your ability to function as a judge in the civil order?
A couple of reasons. One is that I'm able to manage a lot of things at one time. When I was an associate working for law firms in Michigan and in Florida, I just got tasked, like, here, take this case and run with it, or take this case. But as a business owner, it's completely different. That is one aspect. The other is actually bringing in the clients and managing my own office docket to make sure that all the deadlines are being met, the cases are moving along, that I'm not doing anything that would jeopardize my clients' rights, so to speak. So I think that my ability to do many things at once is something that a judge would have to do. They have a docket with many cases, and I think that there's got to be someone who does more than just practice law, that they have had to have a lot of management abilities.
Some of your community-type activities, they appear to be ones in which your heart is part of. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it actually involves in terms of what you perform, how you help, what you do?
Is there a particular charity you're thinking
No,
of?
any one, whether it's Warriors, whether it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so, you know, and this involves my practice of law too, just preserving or protecting the dignity of people, of the citizens of my community. And doing that may be with the Betty Griffin Center. It's funny, I have a couple board members that came in front of you too. That is the only domestic violence shelter in St. Johns County, and being a part of that to protect and preserve the dignity of the young, primarily women and children. The other charitable work that I've done, some with the bar, but primarily I think I've done international relief work, or spent time in Mexico helping build homes where people didn't have them. So outside of Tijuana, spent a staying in a boys' orphanage. And I think, again, trying to do, I think my passion is to protect the dignity of people.
Trials, actual trials, and I want to add contested hearings, because evidentiary rules and things apply. So how many civil trials have you had, and then that stand out to you? And then what are some of the contested hearings like that may be scheduled for a day or perhaps more?
So my bench trials are primarily centered around either like challenges to incapacity, either trying to defend someone's right to preserve their own liberties, the right to drive, the right to vote, the right to decide where they live, the right to handle their finances. So I will either defend them, or in the case where I don't believe that they reach the standard of having capacity, meaning they're a danger to themselves or others, I will represent the guardian. And the other types of contested cases will be will contests, whether somebody was under undue influence, whether somebody forged or manipulated or threw away someone's will or trust. And also the other contested matters were fiduciary misconduct of a guardian or a trustee, a personal representative. So in all of those cases, we would actually have to bring, subpoena folks to come in, present evidence to the judge. And many times, if we didn't have the rules of evidence to protect the integrity of the proceeding, we could be having people come and just say, well, they would bring in hearsay, and we weren't able to cross-examine, where did you get that from? Who said that? Or we need to bring them in, and we need the judge to rule, to exclude evidence that doesn't fall within the rules of evidence, or authenticating documents. We didn't have the ability to take the steps to make sure that the documents were reliable, that we could rely on them. So, and again, the process of admitting evidence and making sure the judge, the judge is different than a jury. There's no doubt about that. You say something to a judge that you weren't supposed to, then you say, well, cover your ears, forget that. But when you're dealing with a jury, they never actually do hear it. So there is definitely a different aspect of, and I think nobody would question that the rules of evidence are a little more lax in front of a judge than it would be in front of a jury, and we all know there's no reason for that.
You got your 80 rating in 04 and the Elder Simmons.
Yes.
It's an interesting dialogue about different ratings, but it's how many years were you practicing when you got it?
In Florida, I had gotten my license in '97, and then in '04 I got it. So I had worked. I'm not a fan of a lot of the other awards. I could tell you how you could get on Florida Elite. I could tell you real quick. Okay, you get 3 people from solo practices, and they vote for you, you win. Okay? Okay, but Martindale Hubble, I think, is probably one of the most thorough. I don't know if you guys made a joke about it, but if you're going to joke about any, that's the least to joke about.
No, I'm the old guy and familiar with the book, and
oh,
so.
Yeah. There used to be a book.
Yeah.
Predates
Yeah.
my time.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Like a phone book?
Computer.
A computer, there we go. Questions?
Well, you were in front of us a couple times now, but since you started coming in front of us, I'm aware you obviously gotten way more involved in the circuit. Just talk to us about that.
And what else?
Well, just, it seems like, Martha says you tried a case recently. You've been, I think, actively working to be more involved in general and, know people, meet people, you've met judges, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I know that talk about different awards. I'm a neighborhood favorite. right, for next door, for St. Johns County, northern St. Johns County. So I've always been, just because of my practice, involved in that area. But when you actually look at the circuit, it's like, holy cow, it's so big. And there's so many attorneys that are in St. John's or Jacksonville that don't know anyone in Volusia. Except everyone knows Terry White, but other than that, nobody will.
Plus or minus. Stay away from that.
But I think, you're going back and forth for me to say that I would have to possibly run. And I made a huge effort. Well, first, I wanted to make people feel comfortable with me. I'll acknowledge I spent so much time in Green Cove and Jacksonville, even Nassau, early on. And then as St. John's got bigger and there was more population, only adherence more because the population has exploded. So as far as me going then south, I established wonderful connections, relationships with community leaders, Flagler and Volusia, elected officials, judges. I feel like I'm more invested. I feel like they know me, they're comfortable with me. I feel like if today you said, we'll send you up to the governor and he appoints me, that I could already create a campaign committee from people from St. John's down to Volusia. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
A minute is a positive, I think.
Oh, thanks. I've worked at it, I think maybe some of you know.
This is a circuit position, as you well know, and the slot is maybe a family docket. But someday, it could be a criminal docket that you're sitting on. And someday, you may be faced with the prospect of having to address a death penalty recommendation by a jury. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, as I started out, I would follow the law. So I understand people have different opinions about that, but I would just have to follow the law.
Rotary, you've been active in the Rotary for a bit of a while, is that right?
Yes,
And risen to what level within it?
So I was COVID president. So it was, the club is in St. Johns County. It's a relatively new club, and it's a nice club where they're nearly equal men and women, so it was, felt comfortable. When I became president, it was quite a experience, and that kind of ties into who do you know in the circuit. Rotarians have this great bond, so you can walk into a Rotary Club anywhere. I walked in and gave a gold star flag to a mom whose son passed away, and we didn't know where to present it, so I called the New Smyrna Beach Rotary Club. I'm like, can we present it at your club? Because I wanted to create something special for her, and we didn't have any, I just couldn't round up people in her front yard. So I went to the Rotary Club there, and they're like, absolutely. And there wasn't a dry eye there. Her son had died in 1984, and she never kind of was recognized as, it's called the Gold Star flag. So Rotary has been very special in my life.
Other items?
I have one more. Let me get to your references. If I could. I was surprised to see that you were involved with the Greek Orthodox Church down in Daytona Beach. I didn't understand why and how. And so is it Father Saman?
Yeah.
Saman? What a lovely man. I'm thinking about converting.
Oh, my goodness.
Quite an advocate. But so with your church relationship with him, did you spend any time in Daytona Beach in Volusia County, is my question.
Well, my relationship with him, I just saw him a couple months ago, and I don't think it was in Volusia, but we took a bunch of middle schoolers away for the weekend. That was like really church camp, and we both were kind of counselors. But as far as spending time, I've gone to the Greek festival there. But as far as him connecting me to Volusia, it really is just having that community there that would support me if I needed to go for, like I said, a campaign. But
Well, can you explain why you listed him as a reference? And I know why, because he explained it to me. How the Greek Orthodox Church, is this a district that runs, that you're in the same geographical district? Is that why?
yeah, so it covers, there's an archdiocese in Atlanta, and it covers most of Florida. So we have like a connection with that church, like there's an oratorical festival, because we have that wonderful tradition of oratory. So we're gonna end up our kids are competing on things like that. So we have a lot of connections where they will host something and our families and kids will go there.
And when you refer to they, you mean the Greek Orthodox Church in Daytona?
Yes, yeah, sorry.
That's right.
But, yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful place to kind of preserve your family's culture and heritage, and we have so much in common. It's not like there's a connection on so many different levels with that church that if you walk in, you feel like the same music, you do the same dances, you eat the same food, everyone knows how to make baklava. I mean, it's just, there's so many connections. So, but he's Syrian. Again, my family's from Jordan, and we also have that special connection of understanding where we came from and how special it is to live here. And again, you know, him being from Syria and all the stress, and I understand the stress of my family being Christian and still there. There's like 3% of Christians that are in Jordan now, so we have that bond too. So it's nice to be in for Volusia, and actually Bunnell. There's a church in Bunnell that I have the same. It's an Orthodox church in Bunnell that's very special to me. Priest, very close with, but I'm not going to pile on a bunch of priesthood references. But we all have a very close connection, religiously, culturally, and you probably won't find any prouder Americans than when you go to places like that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. If there's anything you want to take a parting shot and say, please remember this, what would it be?
Well, I wasn't able to thank you all for setting my name up last year, and it was a really good experience meeting with the Governor's General Council, and I just appreciate it. I know that, and I know this time, as last time, you have a very high quality of candidates, and it's going to be a tough decision, but I would be honored if you set my name up